everyone. I'm Hannah Eden. Thank you for being here. Some of you, not many of you. I see more dudes in here than women, which is interesting. But a little bit of a background on me and what we're going to get into today is I've been in the fitness industry for over a decade. But my purpose and the reason why I started to do fitness has radically changed since I've had a baby, right? It used to be to try and do hard things, show myself what I was capable of and potential and all that good stuff. And now there's so much more intention and purpose behind what I do for two reasons, right? I am exposing my child to risk because I live a very adventurous lifestyle. I like to travel the world, do some crazy shit. And whenever we had a kid, we decided that we wouldn't stop that thing. We would just continue that, but it would just definitely look a little different than it did before. And then there's also the fact that with this adventure, we want to go travel the world and go to these crazy places. We're exposing our kid to more risk. So I felt a massive responsibility as a parent that I need to be prepared. I need to be prepared to be able to act when we're exposed to maybe accidents that could happen. When I say adventure, I mean, went on a 7-mile hike yesterday, hiked up somewhere that was thousands of feet high and doing crazy shit. And then also traveling to the little corners in the world where we're exposing our child to more risk that could be evil, right? So I feel like as a parent, I have a responsibility to be as prepared as possible. I did a course here with Iako and the team, and it was a women's only protectors course. And it was amazing to me how many people showed up and all the women went around the room and explaining why they're here. And they said that they want to be an asset, not a liability. So if shit was to go down, they want to be able to act and be the first on scene and be able to be equipped to do so. And now I feel the exact same way. So I'm excited to be here to learn from you, whether this is from evil or an accident that happens, but we will be prepared to understand what we can do as a parent, as an individual to try and save a life, right? Cool. Is everyone here a parent?
Some yeses, some no's. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Either way, right? If I've had horrible experiences happen before, I don't know why I was exposed to it, but I work with Nordic Track, so we travel the world and we film fitness content. So we go up and hike into really remote places, filming content. And when I did that a couple years ago, I came across a lady that was having a heart attack. And thankfully, I was prepared. I had all my first aid, but there's no one on scene. We are like 14,000 feet up above sea level. No one's out there. No one's coming to rescue you. Unfortunately, she didn't survive, but we did everything we could as a team. That was everyone on the mountain to be able to do what we could. And the people that weren't educated, they froze. They didn't know what to do. They went into total freeze mode. Those that were educated, you just take action and you go with the skills that you learn. So the more skills that we can have in our back pocket, the more of an asset that we are to our right, as people and our children and family and friends and all that good stuff. So I'll let you take over, and I'm excited to learn as well. I'm going to sit down and take a seat.
Okay, hey everybody, welcome to Sheepdog Response. For those of you that are tuning in on YouTube, thanks for joining us. Again, May is Stop the Bleed month. May is many months, but it is also Stop the Bleed month. Also just happens to be the month that contains Mother's Day, so we decided to pair these events. Thanks, Hannah, for joining us and helping us out with this, is to try and get people prepared, be able to stop the bleed. There's no reason that anybody should die from bleeding from an extremity wound, meaning like from arms or legs. And we figured that a long time ago in the military, and now it's starting to kind of trickle out to civilian and the public knowledge, quick and easy ways and all the things that are available to you to stop bleeding from happening. And that's important that you know that. It's important if you're a parent, a mother, a father, anybody, a brother, sister, anybody, and you can help strangers, you can help the people that you love. It's something we train on all the time. We teach the trauma course here at Sheepdog Response, a very popular course where we go more in depth. But today we're going to specifically concentrate on stopping the bleed. What are the tools that we have for stopping the bleed? And they boil down to about 4 things that are either available to you or commercially available to you that you can get. But the good news is they're very available and they're becoming more and more available. It's surprising how many people don't know about those things. And so we're going to try and get you educated. We've also been provided with this fantastic training tool from the folks at Safeguard Medical. If you don't know, Safeguard Medical is the company that we partner with a lot of our medical gear. It's an exceptional company. They have partners in SimBodies who produce these training mannequins. They were nice enough to provide this one to us so we can use it for today. And it bleeds. We can bandage it just like a real person. It's a lot cheaper than actually shooting somebody for real in the class, which is a lot of paperwork. So we're not going to do that. So, yep, those are the jokes. Go ahead and laugh at them. Right, I'll give you time. No, I'm just joking. All right, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to work on that. And first and foremost, right off the bat, we're going to talk about, let me start at the beginning. My name is Matt Smith. I'm Matt Smith. I'm the director at Sheepdog Response. I'm a former Special Forces medic. So just like Tim, I was in Special Forces for most of my 25-year military career. Almost even before I joined the military, I was a medic. I was an EMT and a paramedic before I joined the military. And then I went on and got a med degree and became a SOF medic, a Special Operations Forces medic. And so all my career has been involved in this. And I was lucky enough to be around kind of the onset of what is now known as TCCC, which is Tactical Combat Casualty Care. Most of those protocols that we know now and all the knowledge and that we have at the wellspring when I went through school learning this. So much of the things I learned when I first came in the military changed drastically while I was in the schoolhouse learning to be a Special Forces medic. And but most of those hold true today, and they are the standard across the globe. It is a fantastic system for saving lives, stopping bleeding, keeping the air going in and out and the blood going around and around. And that's all we want to do. It's simple. And it's just like you said, if you encounter somebody in distress, it completely enables you, because if you're not, you feel very disabled in that sense of, because you can be catatonic. I don't know what to do. And so you react like most people do. They just take out their phone, dial 911, and then record it all for posterity's sake, which is the typical reaction to it. But I want you to know that there are 4 things that you can do right off the bat to stop bleeding. And they are very, very effective. Very easy to accomplish and very effective. And the next thing I'm going to talk about, though, before we get started on our volunteer here, is it's about body substance isolation. Meaning, like, I am going to put gloves on, mostly because this isn't real blood coming out of her, but it is particularly messy, and so I'll put gloves on. But there is something to be said. Anytime I would be operating on somebody who I don't know, and I don't know what their past or anything, you got to know that there are such things as bloodborne pathogens, and kind of ethics has got to guide you there. But there are many things that you could get from somebody that you don't know what their history is, so you always want to protect yourself. So today when we do this, we're going to wear gloves, mostly because it's a lot easier to clean up afterwards, but to reinstill the fact that you want to protect yourself. If this was my wife, that'd be creepy, but B, I'd be less inclined to wait to do those things. So again, I make suggestions, you make decisions, but I'm telling you, anytime if I were to encounter somebody that I didn't know, I would take every measure to protect myself, right? But if it's my child, my wife, my brother, that'd be different, because I know exactly all the diseases they have, and I already got them. So the first thing that we're going to talk about then, after protecting yourself with gloves, is direct pressure. So I'm going to get a set of gloves now. I highly recommend that everybody acquire and put in their everyday carry at least 1 set, probably 2. 2 is 1, 1 is none. Of these are what are known as nitrile gloves. These type gloves, latex is kind of passe because a lot of people have developed or they've discovered people have allergies to them. But you see how they're going on my hands right now. The nitrile ones, they go on fairly easy. They're pretty durable. They won't cause a reaction if for some reason somebody has a latex allergy, or if you have a latex allergy. And they're pretty resilient. But if you notice the way I grabbed them and they were kind of loose, a lot of people will buy these ones where they are set up and they are vacuum packed. I highly recommend you don't buy the vacuum packed ones, because the vacuum packed ones, when you get them out of that package, they're nearly impossible to get unfolded. Nice and loose, just like you get them out of the box, 1 or 2 sets in your purse or your everyday carry bag or something is adequate. It's a great way to protect yourself if you have to. And I can't tell you how many times it's come in handy, especially as a medic, right? So first and foremost, if somebody's injured, and there's several injuries on this simulated casualty, but if somebody's injured, the very first thing that you want to do if they're bleeding is go straight to direct pressure. That's the one part that most people skip, especially in this day and age when everybody has tools at their disposal. Perhaps you have a tourniquet and you're going to go right for that thing. Don't forsake this first and easiest step, and that's just direct pressure, which means if I see she has an injury here, I can simply just put hard direct pressure. That will control most bleeding. It actually is no different than a tourniquet. A tourniquet is just a direct pressure device. It just allows me to have my hand back. The problem here is once I'm doing direct pressure, now I'm limited. Now I'm down to 1 hand, right? So what are some other ways that we could use direct pressure without having to sacrifice our hand? We let our hand be available. Anybody think of anything? Your knee, yeah. And it's one of my favorite, and one of the first things we teach young medics in the military is just to transfer the pressure that you're creating with your hand, just create it with some other body part that frees it up. That doesn't mean lean your whole body weight, and that would be problematic, and she probably wouldn't be very happy about it if she could speak. But just enough to match that pressure, and you could do that. Simply just replace that with pressure by your knee, raise your hand back, and now you can start using your hands to open up and tourniquets. I love direct pressure with a hand. Hand is good. Fist is really good because it really gets pinpoint. Not comfortable for a casualty, but it does give great direct pressure in a single point. And then knee is a great one too. It's just like I said, don't lean your entire body weight into them. Just enough to replicate the pressure you do with your hands. Also, a bystander is great. So if I had a bystander, I said, hey, I want you to come do this. That's where that extra set of gloves comes in handy. Hey, while I'm doing this, you put those on. I need you to come back. I need you to hold your hand right here. You need to understand something about the human psyche. Is people want to help. Most people do, but they kind of feel like they don't know what to do. But as soon as you start asking them to help and you give them guidance, they're very attentive. They'll be very helpful. And then it's beautiful because it'll start this trend where people will be like, well, what can I do? And then next thing you know, you're not doing anything. You're just handing out tasks. Ideally, that's what you want to do. Many hands make light work. So that's what we're going to attempt to do, right? So immediately direct pressure if she's got a wound. And we talk about bullet wounds and a lot of things when we're talking about tactical trauma, but there are all types of trauma, many things that can happen: car accidents, hiking, broken ankles, lawnmower accidents, any number of things. We got people coming in as we're talking. Let's say, for instance, she's got this injury right here, and if you can't see it, it's right here high on her leg, and it's a pretty deep injury. Immediately, I want to get direct pressure on there. That is not an ideal injury, and you probably wouldn't be able to use a tourniquet for that. Tourniquets are for limb injuries, like here, she has an amputation. Here on the arm, also another simulated amputation. Any extremity wound outside the trunk area or the midsection of the body, we're going to go right to tourniquet. So we'll talk about that first. The tourniquet I'm going to pull up here. This is what's called a TMT tourniquet, a tactical mechanical tourniquet. It's one of a few really good tourniquets on the market. If you can get your hands on one, we sell them here. They sell them at Safeguard Medical. You can find them at many different places. I highly recommend that you have a tourniquet, right? Actually, I recommend that you have 3 tourniquets. That's generally what I recommend to people. Where do you think those 3 tourniquets should be? Home, car. Right. Actually, my car one is typically my person, because if I'm trying to look at it as a practical sense, I like to say home, work, and car, because I'm in one of those places or have access to one of those things. Ideally, yeah, if you can carry it around in your person all the time, but if it's in my car and I go someplace and it's like, this, I'm going to the state fair, looks sketchy. I think I'll bring the tourniquet in for this one. Right. And so you can make that decision because it's kind of like your mobile one. That's less than $100 for those, but it's nice because the one that's at home in your junk drawer, you show your kids where it is and they have access to it, and anybody at the house can use it. The one at work, if there's something catastrophe at work, then you have access to that too. So I like to tell people to have 3 tourniquets in your life, but know how to use each and every one. But you'll notice something about this tourniquet. Big difference between this tourniquet and this tourniquet. What is it? Yeah, this is ready to go. Tourniquets, in my opinion, have no business being in the plastic wrapper that they came in when you purchased it. This is fantastic because this is a TMT tourniquet as it comes, and if I were to rip it open, it's great, but you'll notice as I'm trying to rip it open with gloved hands, if you're bleeding to death, this is not going to get easier the more blood you lose. And so ideally, you want to get that plastic wrapper off there right away. Usually when I see somebody with a plastic wrapper on their tourniquet, it tells me right away that person's never practiced with that tourniquet. They're just hoping things are going to go right when it happens. It does come with an instruction booklet. It's a very comprehensive instruction booklet. Lots of pictures for you guys and words for the ladies, right? It's very easy to use, very durable, and you can practice with it. So I'm going to dispel 3 tourniquet myths here during this, because there are a lot of myths and I hear them all the time. One is that once I use it once, it's no good anymore. That is absolutely not true. You should absolutely practice with your tourniquet, right? It's very important. The other myth that I'm going to dispel here is that once I put a tourniquet on somebody's limb like this, they're going to lose their leg. They're going to lose that limb. Also not true. Absolutely not true. Anybody might guess how long a tourniquet can stay in place on somebody's limb and it can still be viable? What do I hear? I got a 6, 8. 4 is the government approved answer, and the government figured that out, so it must be true, right? But 4 hours is what they recommend. That's like the FDA approved statement. But you should know in orthopedic surgery, they leave tourniquets on for 6-7 hours. It's sometimes when they're doing knee replacements and things like that. So, but that's with a lot more controls. The important thing is that you know how to take it on. Taking it off is hopefully left up to a medical professional, right? You getting it on fast is the most important thing. But don't think that you're going to commit somebody to an amputation when you do it. I want to get that out there because I want people to be empowered, not to be afraid to do it, because it will save somebody's life. And I have there's volumes of records of that happening, you know, like of proof of that happening. All right, and then the last myth that we see, I covered that you can use them more than once, right? It doesn't mean that they're going to get an amputation, right? And that they can stay in place for more than an hour. That's like most people. I've heard people say 20 minutes is what they heard. Whatever, it doesn't matter. You're putting tourniquets on. You're not taking them off because you're doing that to save their life, and then that person has to a hospital. With this particular model, what you're looking for is this little pillow end right here. They've actually marked it on most models right here. But if I got that thing and I had to self-apply it, I just want to get it somewhere where I can get that in. If I grab it and I just whip it open like that, it makes a nice open. If I had to put it on my arm, it would slide right on my arm. I'm just going to pull that thing until all the Velcro is out and I make this nice pyramid. And I'm going to hold tension on that and continue to pull. If I do that, there's a little keeper that'll keep it in place. And all I got to do is pull it until what's called all the critical slack is out of it. It means I pulled it until it's tightened up on my arm. It's in place. That's called removing all the critical slack. Notice where it is on my arm. Where is it? What if the injury was down here on my arm? Where would I put it? Right here, same place. The injury was here, here. This old myth that you put it 2 inches above the injury, right, is kind of passe. It's gone the way of the dodo. Now I want it high and tight because I want to squeeze it right up here where the artery goes right next to the long bone, if you know your anatomy. And then I'm going to start to turn this thing. How many times am I going to turn it? So they scream, probably long past the time they scream. Usually when I train with them, I tell people to give them 3 full turns and lock them in to get a feeling. And then it'll just lock into that little cam device right there. That was 3 full turns and I locked it in. Is it a tourniquet on my arm? Does my arm look like it has a tourniquet on it? You'll know right away because it still can get blood to it. I still see the veins bulging out and all that. That's because blood is still getting to that. That's just training. So 3 turns and lock it in to give you an idea. When in reality, pardon me, I'm going to tighten this thing till I can't tighten it anymore. Until I can't turn it anymore, and I struggle to lock it in, and then you'll know. You'll know because that arm will go zombie white. It'll go limp, and you'll know. So they used to have a saying, turn it until the bright red bleeding stops. I'm here to tell you, you turn it until everything stops. There shouldn't be anything coming out the end of that limb. But as far as undoing it, they can easily be undone. If I want to undo it from here, I just pull the Velcro off, grab the little buckle on either side and pull it, and it loosens right up and comes right off, and I can reset it to go back in my gear. There's one critical step, though, every time, and they marked a little line on here so I know how to set it up to go back if I want to put it in my car or put it in my kit. The one critical step that you don't want to forget is there's a little marker down here for time. You want to note the time that you put that tourniquet on somebody. That's important to the doctor. That way they know how long it's been on. So as soon as I apply it, it goes on. Great. I want to note the time. And at a minimum, what I tell people is just call the time out. Look at the time and yell that time out. 2:19, 2:19. And somebody will be like, what was that crazy person yelling about? But later on, you could ask, hey, what was that time that I called out if you don't remember? So as a rule, I just tell people to call out, all right, as a reminder to themselves. And that is the application of a tourniquet. If I want to put it on an arm, you saw how it slides right on, but a leg's a little tougher. I don't want to slide it on like a stocking. And so for that reason, they make it disconnect nice and easy. So then I can disconnect it, slide it up under a leg, which is much tougher, get it nice and high on the leg, reconnect it, pull out all the critical slack, and then tighten my tourniquet and lock it in. And that's all there is to it. Right? Now, I didn't tighten this one. I just locked it in, but that's what it'll look. If it's done correctly and it's on there, this will be tightened up and it'll be hourglass kind of appearance to the leg, but I promise it'll stop all the bleeding downstream from that. And that is the tourniquet, right? Anybody here who's not familiar with a tourniquet or never handled one? It's very important. I want you to get your hands on one. And here, after we finish our stream, we'll come up and we'll do some practicing with tourniquets and give you a chance to put one on. You can put one on yourself, or you can put it on me as tight as you want, just to get an idea. That's fine. Or you can put it on Lily even tighter if you want. I'll volunteer here, right? Very important thing though is that first thing I talked about, getting all that critical slack out. Before you start tightening, you want all the slack out. They come on and off really easy. It's very lightweight, very portable, very easy thing to do, and basically guarantees that nobody needs to die from an extremity injury. So if they lost their foot, as she did here, or they have a very severe injury on any of their limbs, it's as easy as putting a tourniquet on to stop it. So what's the next tool that we have in the bag? What if it is an injury like this where a tourniquet won't do the trick? There's no way to put a tourniquet right here near somebody's, bikini line or right next to their pelvis, right? This is a lot of times what was referred to as like a non-compressible hemorrhage, because there's no way to really put a tourniquet. If you're really crafty, there's some things you can do, but you got to kind of know, you got to kind of be in the business to know. But for everybody else, there's a great solution, and that solution is what we call hemostatics. And if you don't know about hemostatics, that's one of the most important things you can learn from a Stop the Bleed class, is that now there are dressings, this is just gauze, that's impregnated with a special solution that when it comes in contact with blood, the blood clots nearly immediately, right? So with the application of this hemostatic and a little bit of pressure, I can stop bleeding in a very, very effective way in places where I can't use a tourniquet. This particular type is what's known as Celox Rapid, right? Or so you might hear people say Celox. It is a product of the UK, right? But there are many, it was invented in America, but it's a fantastic one. There are several on the market. You might hear of Combat Gauze is a very popular one. You can buy Combat Gauze at Walmart. They sell it at Pet, right? They sell it in a lot of different ways, but if you don't know, it's widely available. You just got to know where it is. Thanks, man. I got water over there. So this particular kind is Celox, and Celox is impregnated with an agent that's known as chitosan. Chitosan is it's an organic compound that's distilled from shrimp shells. It's a shrimp shell protein. When they first did it, they were very cautious that not to give it to people who had like shellfish allergies, but now that threat has been eliminated. You can use it on anybody, regardless of what their allergies are. It's a fantastic compound, and I'll show you something. As soon as you open this thing, you'll notice right away that it's this granular compound. And I open it and I turn it over. As I open it, you'll see like all the granular little bits coming out. So I always show people that, just so it's important to show you that, so that I don't open it directly over somebody's face, because you don't want to get that in your eyes. Very irritating. It won't kill you, but it's very irritating. But if I pulled the whole thing out and you saw it, and I'll pass it around so everybody can take a look at it. It's just a gauze, and it's got this yellow granular stuff. And you see as I pull it out, you can see it flaking off there. If you get a light smell, you can smell it. It's got kind of a strange kind of acidic kind of chemical smell to it. Don't take a hard pull on it, otherwise you're just going to snort a bunch up your nose. But I'll pass around so that people can see it. It's fantastic the way it works. And so if this person had an injury like this, I would put that direct pressure. I would get my hands on some of this hemostatic gauze, and then I would start to come back and I would pack that in there right where the bleeding is coming from. I always want to put my hemostatic right where the bleeding's come from. I would never loosely wrap this around an injury, because remember, it's going to create a clot, and I want it to. It's going to use her blood to clot and seal the wound. And it does a fantastic job of that. And if you never used it before, when you watch it work, it is absolutely amazing. Here's the other amazing part, is when she gets to the hospital, because you did a great job of saving her life, the doctor's just going to rinse that bandage with saline, and the bandage is going to come right off, but the clot stays. So it's pretty miraculous. It forms a little gooey compound as the granules kind of meld together, and it works with the clotting mechanism that's in her blood, and it will clot the hole. And that would just get stuffed right in. And you remember, you're going to poke it right to where the bleeding is coming. I see you all making faces as they do this, because yeah, this is not going to be very, very pleasant for her, but it's going to save her life, and that's what you need to remind her constantly. I'm going to pack it in. If I got as much as I can get in there, and it got all in there, and I didn't use it all, that's fine. I can just tear it, and I can save that. And say, for instance, she had multiple injuries, I could use it in multiple different places, right? Or if I absolutely had to use it on multiple people, I could, as long as I kept this portion clean. So be very careful when you open it. Don't yeet the whole thing out of the package and then drop it on the ground in the blood, because I don't want this to be contaminated if it's going to be packed into a wound. And if it comes in contact with blood, it's going to start clotting that blood. And I want it to clot the blood here in the injury. All right, and if I unpack this one, you'll see there is some blood down in there. I got some simulated blood down in there, but it does work quite well. Now, this is simulated blood. It won't work the way it does on real blood, But in fact, we're going to come up here and we're going to practice packing this while it's bleeding. Or I should say Hannah's going to practice packing this while it's bleeding. All right, and then you'll get an idea that it works quite well. Like I'll be controlling it, but getting packed in there, it's all about getting it in there fast, getting it right to where the bleeding is, and then holding pressure. And then I would need to back this up with something, and that's pressure. This is Celox Rapid, and the manufacturer recommends that you back it up with 60 seconds of hard pressure. Then that ensures that it forms this fantastic clot. And so that's what we're after. We want this thing to form a clot, and so we're going to put it in and add pressure. I'm going to just stick it back in the package. I'm going to hand it to Hannah so she can hand it around, and you guys can see it. Like I said, kind of get an idea of what it smells like. And then, and it's commercially available. They also make it in a smaller package, Celox Rapid, which I actually really like. It's this little 1-inch one, which is a little more pocket, purse, EDC carry bag friendly, which is the ones that we pack, like our EDC med kits, our IFAKs, individual first aid kits. We have them in a couple forms. We have ones that are tactical style, like this. This is something you would have on a gun belt or a duty belt, and then one that looks like a little more backpack style. This is one you could put on your stroller or the back of the headrest in your car or something, because it doesn't look so aggressive, and it's more like backpack style of EDC IFAK, and that's what I want. And it contains all of these items plus some. Here's one now open, but it contains the tourniquet, the pressure dressing, and it does have the hemostatic gauze, among some other things in here. And if you come to our trauma course, we teach you use every one of these items in here. But today we're concentrating on bleeding, right? But in our trauma course, we go deep down in the weeds about taking care of chest wounds and other types of wounds, not just bleeding. But it all starts here. You got to be able to stop the bleeding first. Any questions about anything we've covered up until now? Question in the back. I don't think you could tighten it enough to cause damage. And remember, we're worried about stopping bleeding. Yeah. The only case where, we're joined today too by Doc Simpson in the back, and I'll let him chime in on this one. But the only time I think about those things is if I'm talking about children. Typically on children, when they're much lower than the size of an adolescent, frankly, I don't use tourniquets on them, and there's a lot of back and forth about whether you should use tourniquets. Can you use a tourniquet on a child? Absolutely, to save their life. But children, you don't really require it, because using manual pressure does a very effective job. And the neat thing about children is I can pick them up and go get help with them, whereas an adult, I couldn't do that. And so that's the only time is if a child is really small and you were to tighten it down, they don't have the same tissue, they haven't developed the same resiliency that an adult does. And so the reason I say that is never practice on a child. If it's life and death, absolutely you can use a tourniquet on a child. Never practice. But do get your children to practice on you. They love it because it's fun to watch mom and dad like grimace when you put it on. Plus, it's just like teaching them to dial 911, right? You gave them a skill. They could get to it. The beauty about these windlass style tourniquets is a small child could put it on you and save your life. It's easy to teach them, and they love to do it. Doc, you got anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, just
Yeah, Doc Simpson. So this is Dr. Simpson. He works with Safeguard Medical. He's worked with Sheepdog for some time now. A good friend, also a former special operator.
I'm not going to throw any. I do work for Safeguard Medical. I am their medical director. Obviously, I have a little bit of bias. I wouldn't work for them if they did things that were unseemly. I'm not going to throw any of our competitors under the bus, but there are some companies out there that will sell you pediatric tourniquets and canine tourniquets that I would call excrement, for lack of a better word. So
is that like shit?
Yes.
Okay.
So what determines how much pressure is needed to stop a bleed is not blood pressure. It's not any of these other things. It's actually mass. So that's why it takes less pressure to stop a bleed in the arm than it does in the leg. Kids do not have enough mass. You can put one hand around a bleed, usually just like this, and that's enough to stop it. Two hands definitely is enough.
Very easy on kids.
An ACE wrap will stop a bleed in most kids. Any of the pressure bandages that these guys have in their kits is more than enough to stop a bleed. Same with canines. Okay, they don't have the muscle mass, so it takes 500 millimeters of mercury to stop a leg bleed with a thigh tourniquet. It takes about a quarter of that in kids and in dogs. So if somebody's trying to sell you a special tourniquet for your kids, don't waste your money.
Yeah, it's really just a marketing scheme. There's not really a market for a child's tourniquet. To tourniquet a child, but again, do train your children, but train them to treat an adult. Right? Once they're mature enough, and you can teach them first aid, teach them a tourniquet. It's super easy. They can save a life. They can do it, and they can even improvise it. It doesn't have to be one of these what we call COTS, commercial off-the-shelf tourniquet. Although there are so many great ones on the market now, and they're so I don't know what, but I've improvised as many as I made. I mean, and we learned how to do it in Boy Scouts. It still works. It still works great. These are fantastic, ready-made, and this is really easy for anybody at any level to understand, any age to understand, and you can teach them, and it's a fantastic tool. Thanks. I appreciate that. All right. And so the last thing that we're going to talk about, so remember we've talked about direct pressure. Always start with direct pressure. That's manual pressure I do with my hand or some other body part. Next thing we're throwing in is hemostatics if we need them, right? Or I'm sorry, tourniquet, right? Tourniquet, quick, anything that's a limb, you can tourniquet, you just shut it off, right? The next thing that we talked about was hemostatics, which is still a lot of people. I wish more people knew about hemostatics. Spread the word, let them know. Hemostatic is just a special dressing. It's impregnated with a special agent that makes blood clot when it comes in contact. So it does even better than gauze and regular bandages, right? But it has to be used in a specific way. And remember, it has to go right where the bleeding is coming from, right? That's where I want that thing to go. A lot of times, even so much, I didn't show you this, but if I don't see where the bleeding is coming from, I'll wipe it with the first one so I can see where the blood's coming from and then start packing it right to where the blood's coming from. That's an important thing, that you don't just blindly pack it, that it goes right where the bleeding is coming from. And then the last tool is what we call a pressure dressing. Pressure dressings come in a lot of forms. Many of the ones on the market today are built like this. This is a very common one. It's great. It's kind of, I mean, it does the trick. It's kind of no frills. It's just basically an ace wrap with a pad on it, right? That's what it is. So it's just an elastic bandage that has a pad. They'll put a little piece of Velcro on it. This one is an abdominal one. That's why the pad is so large, in case you had to cover a big abdominal injury. But it's no different than a stretchy pad, you know. And so I could put it on, wrap it on really tight, just like Doc was talking about, and you could get a lot of pressure with it, right? Because the idea is I'm trying to get as much pressure with the bandage as I do with my hand. And here's the very important mantra that you need to understand. This is what's known as the ETD, emergency trauma dressing. It's pretty good. They've been around for a long, long time. It will get the job done. They require practice like anything else. A regular ace wrap from your local drugstore would work too. If you just want to keep that, just make sure it's a very durable one, a very good one, and you could use it. But the pad itself is of little importance to me, because I want you to remember this little mantra. Bandages, they just soak up blood. Pressure is what stops bleeding. You want pressure. So just putting a fluffy gauze on it and covering it is just out of sight, out of mind. That's you just being like, I don't want to see this. This is very disturbing to me. But in reality, what I want is hard pressure. Pressure is what's going to stave the blood. It's going to keep the blood in the circulatory system. That's what I want. So don't just throw something fluffy over an injury and out of sight, out of mind. If you're going to do that, just put your hat over it, and you're doing just as much good. What I want you to do is pressure, right? And so we want to use a pressure dressing. Well, the folks over at Safeguard is one of my favorite. And here's another one. This is another one by another major manufacturer. They're pretty good too. It's ace wrap style. I'll pass around. You're welcome to open it up and take a look at it if you want. Those are all for demonstration purposes. But our folks over at Safeguard, they came up with this. This is one of my favorite. Actually, I'm going to be honest. This is one of my favorite new medical devices of this decade, because when I saw it, it was one of the few things that has still got the capability to kind of make my jaw drop when I looked at it and said, hey, that is a nifty device. It's very, very cool in the sense that it is a very, very ingenious system. And so most of them are based on an ace wrap. This one, I'm going to open it up for you. And the easiest way to open it up is a little tricky with gloves on. But the easiest way to open up is I just look for this opaque strip. They've marked it in red, and they place this opaque white strip on there. So that way I know where to open it up. And I tell people, just open it up and hold it so that it's hanging down like this. And you guys see this thing that says remove? Guess what you got to do with that thing, right? But I've had many people use these and forget to remove this, and it works just fine. But the idea is to remove it. But because this one isn't based on an ace wrap, I say just hold it here, grab it like this, and pull it like a fire alarm and dispose of that. That will reveal underneath the pad, should you want to use the padded area, right? And then I have the rest of this. And what is this? Yes, no, just about, right? Yeah, that's a lot of damage, right? No. So what does it look like? You can say it. What does it look like? Yeah, it looks like, well, everybody is like, looks like packing tape, you know, like it is tape. The only thing is it's not, right? The cool thing is it's really stretchy, but the other thing is it returns back to its normal size. This is a space age polymer that they actually got some scientists from NASCAR to help them with. It's the same. This is what holds fenders on NASCARs at 200 miles an hour. Yes. So yeah, scientist in NASCAR, NASCAR scientist. Yeah, for all people in North Carolina, that was Doc Smith who said that, or Doc Simpson who said that, not me. No, but yeah, he's right. And so when I first said it, I was like, come on. And then I tried to break it. So I'm going to pass this around. I want you guys to try it. If you want to stretch it, that's fine. But put it on the table and stretch it down, because usually what I do is I'll hand it to somebody and they'll go to stretch it and they'll let go on one end. Bam! And they'll punch the person in the face right next to them. So you can, yeah, it will stretch for a very long way and it returns. And so you can get an insane amount of pressure with this. And there's a country mile of it on this roll. There's a lot that you can use. And so this is very innovative. It works very well in the wet. When I first got exposed to them, the rep from Safeguard, I was working at the dive school in Florida, and he sat him down. He said, hey, I'd like for you to test them out in a waterborne environment where there's a lot of water, and we did, and they worked tremendous. And it's clear, so you can see through it. So once it's on, it's not a case of I can't see what's going on under there, right? If I was going to use this, and I will, on an arm or a leg, let's do it on the leg. I like to secure the leg if it's not injured in a way up above the ground. But if it's injured, you got to be a little more ginger. But I'm going to get around. And the nice thing is once I make a pass, that's it. It's stuck to itself. It doesn't stick to things very well, but it sticks to itself amazing. That's kind of the deal, right? And so all I'm going to do is pull tension and then wrap again. So it's always pull away and then wrap, pull away and then wrap. And you can get a lot of pressure with this and in one place. If I squeeze really, really hard, I can get this thing really mashed down. But the trick is don't just roll it around. You have to pull tension and then wrap, pull tension and then wrap. And anytime I want to stop, I just stop and it stops and it stays on itself. Question in the back. Yeah, Israeli bandages are, nowadays it's become a very, a blanket term for any of those ace wrap style bandages. Yeah, the original ace wrap style bandages were called Israeli bandages, which is funny because I trained with the Israeli military and they called them American bandages. But they were originally designed for the Israeli military, and they had a very green color to them. If you still have one in circulation or use any of those ace wrap ones, they all work great. Yes, they are good. Yeah, they are good. But everything is only as good as you are acquainted with it, right? I could give you this fantastic set of skis, but if you don't know how to ski, it doesn't do you any good, right? So it's all about knowing your equipment. But yeah, don't throw out Israeli bandages, and they're good. Don't throw out any of those other EDTs or by those other manufacturers. They're all very good. It's just, I think that Safeguard Medical does a very good job of kind of staying on the cutting edge, and they're still doing some very good stuff. And I feel like a lot of other companies are just kind of resting on their laurels a little bit, and they got plenty of sales here and overseas. The folks over at Safeguard and Doc Simpson and those guys, they're really coming up with some great stuff, and they let us play with it, and I love that too. It's like they're very proud of their product. They're like, hey, how about this mannequin? They're like, how about we send you one? And like they're very proud of it. And so that's a first telltale sign that it's good quality equipment, and I think it is. So I've covered, again, direct pressure. We covered that, right? We want to be able to apply direct pressure. Then what are we going to do after direct pressure? Tourniquets. I want to go right for those tourniquets. Tourniquets got to be someplace available, and I got to get it on fast, right? After tourniquet, if I can't use the tourniquet, in some place where I can't use the tourniquet, then it's using that hemostatic dressing. If you can't remember that, it's called, you can call it the blood clotting dressing or the blood stopping dressing, whatever. But they sell those everywhere. I'm not joking. You can buy them at Walmart. You can buy them at CVS or Walgreens. They're everywhere. You can get them here. It's wherever you want to get them from, but get some in your life. Get some hemostatics in your life, especially if you hike or you hunt. If you walk miles out into the woods far away from everybody and climb a tree with nobody in sight, what's your excuse for not having the med gear with you? Because it could be your only way to get back. So it's very important, right? And then the last thing I showed you is pressure dressings. I want you to understand that pressure dressings and tourniquets are really even It's just that a tourniquet applies much faster. Remember I said it's just a way to put pressure somewhere and for me to get my hands back so I can do other things and be supportive and help in other ways, right? So this is no different. It's just a place where it's a way to apply pressure, get my hands back so I can use them in another place. And so tourniquets and pressure dressings, nearly equal. I can get near tourniquet pressure from one of these pressure dressings. Like you talk with kids, that's all I'm ever going to do with a kid, right? Or most of the time, that's what I'm going to do with a kid or pets. And we do talk about pets all the time. We have working military dogs, and so you had to learn how to work on dogs too. And the dog in their kit would have everything. It's in a little box on the side, would have their bandage for them, the drugs for them, all the things you need, right? Because you got to make sure that you give a dog drugs before you start treating it. Otherwise, it bites you. Sometimes kids do too. But and then it's getting that pressure, using that pressure dressing. You can do it with your hands. You can do it with a tourniquet, and you can do it with a pressure dressing. It's just that tourniquet is very fast and convenient. That's why it's such a beautiful device. Any question about any of those tools that we covered? Those are the stop the bleed tools, right? And they're very available to you. Another question in the back. Yes. Sure. Yeah. And there are many devices like that. That's a good question. So this is what's known as the Oles dressing. It's been on the market for some time, but what do you think that little plastic piece is for? Yeah, it's just to focus pressure in a spot, right? So basically, as I wrap it around, it's just going to continually push down on that. It's basically like a knuckle. So I'd put that right where the injury is, right there. They also did something crafty and made it so that on the back side, if you open it up, inside, there's actually a gauze that you can pull out and use for packing as well in there. And there's also an apple and a soda in there. No, I'm just kidding. But they put some other things. This one's been on the market for a while. It works quite well. And like I said, it's nice because like an ace wrap, they put a Velcro piece every like 8 inches. That way this thing, you ever had a Velcro or dropped an ace wrap and it pays out and you're like, oh man, it's going to take me a week to roll that thing up. It stops every 8 inches so that you don't accidentally let it go. Not bad, but very difficult to get the kind of pressure with this that you can get with this battle bandage, which I happen to like very much. And also, like I said, like this thing just keeps going forever and ever and ever. There's tons of material. And they got smart because everybody really likes this thing. They said, well, what if I just really, really like NASCAR space age technology? And they're like, yeah, we got something for you. That is what's known as the battle wrap. That's the same thing, but without the bandage component. That way I could use a hemostatic and this, and the beauty of that is look how small it is. It's very like purse friendly, IFAC friendly type stuff. I'll pass this around. This is the one you're allowed to stretch, but please don't punch your neighbor. All right. Or if you're going to punch your neighbor, then let's get it on. Let's take it on the mats and tear it up. Make sure it's a good fight. Yes, please. About the packing. You're going to pack as much as you can get in there, and then you won't be able to get any more in there. I'll address your question. Your question is, could I overpack it? It's not likely. That scenario is not likely, but there are some places I don't pack. So if she has a wound in her abdomen or in her chest cavity, I'm never going to pack stuff in there, right? Because you would run out of gauze before you could pack that. Usually those wounds are in, like, if we're talking about the shoulder or some places like that, but I don't pack things into cavities because it would be limitless and you don't know what you're packing in. That person, if they have that really bad bleeding in the abdomen or chest, they need a surgeon quickly, and speed is going to be your friend. Do your best with manual pressure and get them to a surgeon quickly, right? But for all these other things from the waist down or from the shoulders out, it's just another tool that we have. If it's in some weird place where I can't quite get a tourniquet, which they've put right here, then that's why you have those tools like hemostatics. Don't just throw your hands up, throw up, faint, and die, right? You have tools other than a tourniquet. If you can't get a tourniquet over it, go for that thing. But just like the pressure cup on this one, the folks over at Safeguard, they doubled down and they came up with, where did I put that guy? They also have a device. I might have stuck it. I thought I set it aside, but maybe I didn't. Oh, I think it's over here. I'm going to step out of frame. Yeah, so they have a device that actually affixes, and this is newly FDA approved. Fantastic, smart. It's called the TQ RAM. And frankly, I just rip it open. But you can have this also in your kit. It's very light, easy to use, but it's the same type thing. It's just pressure cup. Only this one is designed that it affixes to their tourniquet. So basically, that just slides in the slots on their tourniquet. So if I wanted to create pressure where a tourniquet can go, I pop this thing in, and set it down over there. And I could wrap it around her entire waist and tighten it down. And it'll just drive that cup down in there and make pinpoint pressure where that thing is. So like I said, there's a lot of great innovative stuff still coming out. Slightly higher level than what we're talking about, but just know, like once I kind of learn and understand it's all about pressure, then the rest of the stuff comes pretty intuitive, you know, like then you start understanding. Question in the back. Yeah, that's okay. Shameless plug, right? Yeah, we do have a promotion going on today. If you buy any of the IFACs that we have, you get the free virtual trauma course along with it. All right. I'm going to give away some stuff here because there's going to be a quiz at the end and we'll see what you guys remember. Right. But the stuff is available from us. It's available from Safeguard Medical. You can go to the website. I love Safeguard's website because it's kind of laid out in a very easy to understand way. And I think it seems to me like a lot of the other websites are kind of starting to steal their mojo because they did it in a very crafty way and laid it out. All the hemorrhage stuff for stopping the bleed is all in one place. It's all color coded red, so you know it's for hemorrhage and stuff. So it's very, very good system, right? Did that answer the question in the back? So free virtual training for anybody who wants an IFAC today. That's true online or in-house or whatever. And we have a lot of this stuff in the pro shop. If you want to get your hands on it, I'll be glad to get you some. I'm going to address his question because he's hand up first, and then I'll get you.
The adapter you put on the tourniquet, is that for like better for larger people?
Perhaps, but I don't suppose it matters so much on size as where wound location, wherever that wound is. Because if the wound's in a place where a tourniquet won't work, but pressure sure would. I'm telling you, back in the day, like when I was a young medic, we used to take an Nalgene bottle or a drink bottle, set it there, and tighten a tourniquet down over it. They just created a device that did the same thing. So you could do it. I've seen studies where they put a boot. The guy takes his boot off, puts it there, and tightens the tourniquet around the hips, and it just pushes the boot in. And again, it's just so I can get my hands back, right? It's a hands-free pressure device. They just done a very light. The nice thing about this is it's so light, whatever, and you can sip tea out of it, I guess, if you wanted to, while you're waiting. But you could do it, but yeah. But they're out there, and they're relatively cheap. They're relatively easy to understand and use, and with just a little bit of practice 2-3 times. If you come to our trauma course, I promise you, we practice the crap out of tourniquets. By the time you're done, everybody in the class can self-apply a tourniquet anywhere in 10 seconds or less. If they don't, then we just execute them and bury them because we don't want the people to do it successfully. No, that's not true. But it's very easy to accomplish that standard. When I tell people 10 seconds is the standard, they're like, are you kidding? Especially after they put it on the first time, and it takes 45 seconds for them to do it. But then by the end of the class, they're like, yeah, that's easily achievable. Just a few turns. And I'm like, I got it. Yeah, I could get this thing on. If I was bleeding, I could get it on in 10 seconds. But it's very important that you capitalize on what they call your usable consciousness. Because I'm bleeding really bad arterially. I only have so many seconds before my decision-making process starts to go away. So I'm losing a lot of blood. I'm not going to get more dexterity as time goes along. So I have to act fast. Your question, I'm sorry. Space plastic, the NASCAR space plastic. Yeah, the battle bandage. Yep.
How long would that work as inclusive dressing? Say, like, for like penetrating.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. When I look at it, I was like, this is like limited occlusive dressings. When she says occlusive dressings, she's talking about a dressing that would stop both air and blood or anything. So if she was wounded in the chest, we're not really talking about chest seals here. We do in the trauma course, we cover all of that. But if she wanted to occlude a dressing, like I don't want air or anything to go out, could I use the battle bandage for that? Yeah, that's what I love about it. I was like, hey, I could do some kind of really crafty stuff. This also isn't sanctioned by the folks over at, but like I've come up with all kinds of crafty uses for it because, like I said, I love the fact that it's got a lot going on. But when you get to the end here, right, this last little piece is just the piece that the roll on. What if I took that piece and I moved it to here and then started to tighten it right here? The safeguarding people don't know anything about this. Don't show Doc Simpson in the back. But if then I put it down and then I took that piece and I started to twist it, could I get really good pinpoint pressure in that spot where I'm doing it? Off label. That's not sanctioned by them. That's just stuff. But it's as crafty as you can get, right? And so could you use it for other things? Yeah. Is it designed for those things? No. But if you're smart and you're crafty, you can do whatever it takes to save a life, right? So for sure, they didn't design it that way, but me looking at these things, I can, whether you got a lot of reps, you got a lot of experience in the realm, you look at it and you're like, there's a limitless potential. Once you understand it and you kind of get over the initial apprehension of using those things, it becomes very basic and easy to use. Question?
You mentioned earlier being careful with the bandages, make sure you're not contaminating them.
Yeah.
Them on the patient.
Yeah, that's right.
Are there other things you can do, especially getting harassed with a physical patient in that aspect?
Yeah, so like there you go. The Hippocratic Oath is do no further harm, right? So well, and everything we do, we don't ever want to make our casualty worse than they were, right? We're always trying to improve their situation. So most is keeping things as clean as possible. Will it be completely clean and sterile? Not likely, because you're not in a hospital. We're talking about in a pre-hospital setting. But you always want to keep it as clean as possible. And then my advice in regard to that question is never attempt anything that you haven't proven in a training setting, right? It's not time, like you watched a video on how to do a cricothyroidotomy on somebody. It's not going to go like you think it will. Trust me. All those techniques, all those procedures, they require finesse and experience and somebody looking over your shoulder and helping you. Go get trained on it, or go find those courses that are out there, and then you have that tool in your tool bag. But under pressure, when somebody's injured, is not the time to figure out, hey, I could probably do this. Maybe it'll work. I don't know, but I wouldn't. It's you got the rest of that person's life to figure it out. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Any other questions? We're going to wrap it up pretty soon with the live stream portion of this. So, probably not on the same limb. That would be a waste of a pressure bandage. I mean, once a tourniquet's on it. But in the medical world, there is what's called converting a tourniquet, which means I could put a tourniquet on to stop the bleed. That'll give me time to get the pressure dressing on, and then I could go and buy back my tourniquet if I needed it for other people. Docs, please. Yeah, doctors they routinely do this, right?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So there are times and Matt specifically said not on the same limb. The reason for that is if I put a tourniquet here and I put a pressure bandage here, depending on the pressure gradient and how properly I apply both of them, I can create what's called a compartment syndrome.
Yeah, it'll just trap everything in there.
Like if my tourniquet wasn't, my bandage was, arterial blood can get in, but venous blood maybe can't get back out. Right? So then this will swell up. That's going to cause tissue necrosis. And then we're gonna have a whole different issue.
Yeah, and from a fitness perspective, every time your body is doing something, right, there's some metabolic byproduct, right? So when we go and we get a hard lift in, you feel it the next day because you build up all this lactic acid and all these byproducts that your body develops when it's burning and creating, right? That same thing is happening even if the person is in a distressed situation. If I compartmentalize all that crud in one place, it's going to be very difficult when it gets to him because he's going to have to pump a ton of fluid in, and it's going to take a long time, and it can shock their system. If he were to unleash all that garbage that built up, all those byproducts that build up, and it just dumped into the system, it can put a person into cardiac arrest. It can do some nasty stuff. So that's what I'm saying. Don't experiment in those realms. Plus, it's just a waste of equipment. Once you got a tourniquet on, a pressure bandage is not needed. An effective pressure bandage doesn't require a tourniquet, but if you put a pressure bandage on, it's the only one that you had, and you noticed it's not working, don't lie to yourself. Get a tourniquet on that thing, tighten it, and don't loosen it, because don't get fooled twice. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? I think that is it. Thanks again. I appreciate it. Wealth of knowledge. Awesome to have you here. Hannah, if you'd like to come back up, I think we're going to close out for the live stream, and then we're going to so that's the basics. Come visit us at Sheepdog Response here live at our training center. Come to one of our courses. Tons of live courses online you can go check out. We run deals on them all the time. They're awesome 2-day course you can get involved in. Check us out at sheepdogresponse.com. Check out our YouTube channel if you're already on it. We got plenty of great content that we put up there for free. Always love to see you there. Like, subscribe, do all those things. And I'll turn it over to Hannah and make sure you go check her out on Instagram.
Yeah. Thank you. I think this is such a great experience for us to all understand the importance of all these